Hello everyone, today our channel is 1 year and 1 day old. Hasn't the time gone really quickly? I don't know where it's actually gone. It's gone in a blur of videoing, primarily editing at length because it takes me forever. And then obviously April was a washout because I had a crisis of confidence. Plus I'd burnt out. I'd just taken on too much work. And I forget I'm 68. I think I'm 35 in my head, but I'm 68, nearly 69, and I forget about it. And in case you're wondering why I've got a blonde hair on, it is my own, and I have covered up the bald bit with this scarf, the magic of scarves. Today is a really hot day in England. Well, it is in Surrey. It's sort of cloudy with some sun poking through, but it is muggy and warm and I hate it. I am no good in the heat. Anyway, I got up this morning and I thought, you know what, wigs are warm to wear. I mean, they make your head itch. You're forever doing, well, I'm forever doing this because they make my head itch. And my wig is warm. So I've got to find another mode of working with this hair loss thing that's going to enable me to survive the summer. Otherwise, I'm just going to melt. My daughter, Claire, sent me a cool towel that I have to dampen and waft in the air, and then I can wrap it around my neck to cool me down. I've yet to try it out, but she says it's absolutely brilliant, so I will give that a go and I'll let you know how I get on. So I've got my real hair on today and I've curled it to make more of what I've got, and I've backcombed it. That's another old baby boomers thing to do. So I've backcombed it, I've faffed around with it, and I couldn't cover up my bald spots, so I stuck a scarf on to hold my whole hair in place, and I'm just going to go with that. It makes a change for me to not be doing this all the time because it does make my head itch, but I've come to a decision about the beautiful wig I was sent. And I don't think that in all good conscience I can keep it for myself because I don't suit long hair. I don't feel I suit long hair. I really don't. It doesn't feel comfortable on me. And I feel like I look like a witch without the green skin. Now, I have decided that I'm going to get in touch with a local alopecia society and donate the wig. I think for some woman with a larger head like me, it will be an absolute godsend if she had already had long hair, or if she was young, if she was younger than me and all the rest of it, and had lost all her hair to chemotherapy or to alopecia, then this wig would just be wonderful for her. And it's a very expensive wig. It's real hair, and in England I think it's about £500. It would be incredibly selfish of me to just keep it in my cupboard until the day I get a stylist to cut off a few inches of the length and then restyle it in a style that I can manage. I just think that would be a criminal waste. So I'm going to donate it because I just know that's the right thing to do, and it will bring another woman such joy that I can't deny her that. Oh, and before I forget, I know you don't have to, but would you please, if you're not already, consider subscribing? It's not a vanity thing. It really is that the more subscribers you have, the bigger your audience, the more people these videos get pushed out to, and that would be a lovely thing. So that's one thing. The other thing is I found another wig. I found another wig that I really like. I think it's right up my street. It's short. It's called Twisted Pixie. by Treasure. Now, it's not out until June, so I can't get it. And I, flash with the success of my last wig review, I contacted the company that sells them to see if they'd like me to do a review. Having said that, you know what? I like it so much that I will just buy it and let you see what it looks like. Apparently it has got very light fibres in the hair, so it's featherweight, and it's got a very open weave in the, where the hair bits are put in. So it should be a lot cooler. But the thing that I really like about it is that not only is it lace front, so this time, if I'm keeping it, I would trim off that lace bit at the front. I didn't trim off that lace bit because I already knew in my heart of hearts that I wasn't going to keep it. I knew it didn't suit me, and I knew I was going to donate it as soon as I put it on. So I haven't trimmed the lace on the Wigs wig. It is beautiful, it's just not for me. So I'm going to have to pay the £12.50 taxes, I suppose, but I'm going to donate it. Sometimes things are bigger than £12.50, aren't they? And if it costs me £12.50 to bring somebody else a big amount of joy at a terrible time in their life, then that's fine. So anyway, I didn't cut off that lace and make it look all invisible because I knew it wasn't for me. But if I get this Treasure wig and it suits me, I think I will get it. Probably, I don't know whether I'll get it in a blonde or whether I'll get it in a redhead, because I have to say that I think the redhead does take years off me. Well, a girlfriend of mine said it did, and that's enough. So I'm going to have a look at the Twisted Pixie wig by Treasure. Have a look at it on the web. See what you think. Do you think it would suit me? I think it would. It's got very loose, lovely curls, a bit like I'm trying to do here, but with less hair. Loose, lovely curls, and it comes down to about here, and it's all puffy at the back, and it's got this lovely wavy thing going around the front, and it looks really glamorous, and I think it could elevate my face, make me look glam. So with that in mind, when it comes out, I'm definitely going to order one. And if I like it that much, which I think I will, because, it looks all right at the minute, if it really does suit me, and I think it will, then I will purchase, I don't know, I'll have to ibble obble out the colour that I'm going to get, and maybe I'll just choose. So I'm going to do that, and also I'm not just going to make shorter videos from now on, I'm going to make a mixture of both so that I can suit you all. I think we have to be flexible, so that's what I'm going to do. What else has been happening? Oh, my neck is playing up. I have got severe arthritis in my neck. I think it's C3, 4, 5 are arthritic severely. I think I found that out when I had an MRI. I think it was an MRI. Anyway, when I last had an investigation, I had those injections in between all the vertebrae to put some steroid in there to take down the inflammation. And I think they must have put in a bit of anaesthetic into there too, because for a while, it was absolutely heavenly. No pain, I didn't get any back pain, it was just lovely, and it was like it used to be. But it's 6 weeks ago now, and all of that has definitely worn off. Yesterday I could barely move my neck at all. Actually I still can't move my neck further than that. I could move a little bit that way, but not a lot without getting intense pain. And I'm due to see the pain specialist on Tuesday, and I think we're going to have to go for the first option that he offered me, which was nerve ablation. I think they would have to put me out because because it's an electronic procedure, I'd have to switch off my machine, and then I'd be like this, and my head does this when I'm not controlled by this stimulator. So my head would be moving, my hands would be moving all over the place, and I wouldn't be safe to operate on. So they would have to put me out, I think, which is just as well. And then they would stick needles into the nerves that come from this area in my neck and go down here and here and here. And then they would put an electric current through them, which is why I have to have this stimulator off, which then should burn the ends of the nerves that give me so much pain. That procedure on all those nerves should help me for months, which would be sublime, because I can tell you, when you've got problems with your neck, you also get problems with your shoulders and with your trapezius muscles and right the way down to here, which I can tell you is absolute misery. You just forget how nice it was before you became a crippled old lady. You know, such is aging, unfortunately. Anyway, that's one thing that's happening next week. Not the burning of the nerves, but the organising of it. The other thing that has been happening in my life this last week or so is that Katie has been unwell again. That poor girl, she has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and from being a super fit mother of two, constantly doing charity walks to raise money for this, that and the other, often on her own, she has become this person who is battling to walk and also has postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, because that goes together with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, unfortunately. So sometimes she gets up and she might feel that she's going to faint or she's sick. Right now she's battling sickness, feeling nauseous and dizzy. So she's now on anti-sickness drugs, she's on all sorts of stuff. Plus I give her B12 injections because I know that's good for her problem. And you know, when your child is poorly, you would gladly take it on for yourself if they could be normal again. I mean, she doesn't complain. She just gets on with it. But last week she was so poorly, her assistant at her surgery cancelled all her patients that afternoon on the Friday because as she was working, she was listening to the side, and she said to her patient, "Does it seem like I'm falling over to you?" And the patient said yes. And after that, she could barely stand without falling over, which is a worrying development if you're a mother of two and you've got a business to run. Well, you've got two businesses to run. So her assistant took it upon herself to cancel the rest of the patients for the day and the next day, and she had to go and see the doctor, who asked her, had she been referred to the department that deals with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome? And she said, no. Every symptom that she gets, she has to explain what her problem is all over again. Whereas if she was seen at this place, this special place for people who suffer with this type of disease, they would know what she's going to have because they would have seen it time and time again, and they would know exactly what to do instead of just piling on more and more medications for her to take. Anyway, she couldn't move all that weekend, and she couldn't really properly be safe in a car on the Monday, so she couldn't work on the Tuesday, but on the Tuesday she'd already seen the doctor and the medications had started to work, and she was able to drive up here from Sussex, so she did work on the Wednesday. But you know, when your child is unwell, doesn't matter how old they are, you worry. And I do worry massively. I am still researching all the information about women and heart attacks and medical bias, because I really do think that it is incredibly important for us to be prepared. I'm hoping that none of us do have to try this all out, but it would be so much better if we did know what to expect if it did happen. We don't want to die of ignorance, do we? So I'm continuing to do that. I mean, you just imagine you had gone into, let's say, you'd gone into a beach area, but you didn't know there were quicksand there. And you're walking merrily along with your life, and then suddenly you get to a bed and your feet start to sink. And there's a medical practitioner on the other side saying, "Oh, don't worry, it's only a bit of sand, you'll be all right, carry on. Carry on walking through, you'll be all right." So you carry on sort of trying to drag your leg out, but by the time you're on the second step, you're well and truly stuck. And by this time, you're up to your knees. And that person on the other side is saying, "Oh, don't worry, stop making a fuss. Actually, I think you're having a panic attack. Don't worry, you'll be all right. Just put one foot in front of the other and you'll be all right, don't worry." But now you're up to your thighs. And you know you've got this impending doom feeling. And they're still standing there waving at you. "Yeah, you're having a panic attack, dear. Don't make a fuss." Well, that's what medical bias is like as a woman. Not if you're a man, curiously enough. Not if you're a man. It is a definite thing. I find it astonishing. I think I said in another video, I read an article where they were talking about medical bias, and they were saying if a man is asked what level his pain is, and he says, "Oh, it's about 1 or a 2, it's not very much," the medical profession think, "Oh, bless, he's being so brave, I'll give him some painkillers, it must be an 8 or a 9. However, go figure that one out. However, if you're a female and in absolute agony, and you say, I feel as if I'm dying. I feel so ill. I'm in so much pain." Well, what's your pain level? From 0 being nothing and 10 being the most terrible pain in the world. What's yours? And you say, "It's a 9 or a 10. Just imagine you're in the middle of childbirth. What's your pain level? And they turn around and they say to their colleague, "Oh, she's making a fuss. She's panicking. I'll talk to her. I'll calm her down and then we'll give her paracetamol." Well, that's what it's like being a woman. People don't believe you. So, I have actually had that when I had pleurisy, and I spent several hours in A&E, and I could literally barely breathe. Even the tiniest little breath was, I can't tell you how agonising it was. And I did think at one time, "Oh God, I hope it's not a heart attack," because my boy wasn't around and he might find me, expired on the bed. So I'd gone to the hospital, and they ended up eventually, after about 8 hours, they sent me off back to my car to drive home with 2 paracetamol. And frankly, I could have done that myself. That said, I have just listened. Now, here's the thing. If you are in your 70s and on your own, and you had a love that you met in your 20s, and you didn't know how they got on, but at the time you thought, "Well, I love him. or I love her if you're a man. But for various reasons you didn't get together, and then you ended up going your separate ways and you married other people. Well, if that sounds like you, this story that I listened to on BBC Sounds, on their, what was it? No, I think it was called Life-Changing. And it's a series of life-changing podcasts, I think they are. Anyway, this one was called The Vicar of Bray's Daughter, and followed the love story of a lady called Carol and a man called Benedict. And they met in the 60s when Carol had been going to art college and Benedict, I can't remember where he was, but eventually they met in that university town in Dublin, I think, and they met in the pub. And Benedict was a very bohemian young man. He came from a very bohemian family, but Carol was actually the minister of Bray's daughter. So they were very different, but Carol and Ben fell in love and they had a wild and passionate love affair. However, eventually Carol feared that Benedict's lifestyle wasn't suited to her lifestyle, in fact. I mean, it was the 60s. She was a vicar's daughter or a minister's daughter, and, you know, she'd been brought up in a certain way, and the times were different then. So they split up. Carol split up from Ben. She remained single, and she eventually was contacted by a Dutchman who wanted her to paint his picture for his mother. So she did, and in the 6 weeks that it took her to do this portrait of him, they fell in love and eventually they got married. They lived in Ireland, but their marriage was never quite right. And eventually, although it wasn't quite right, and Carol had married him for life, she stuck around, and in the end they'd had 4 children, and they'd moved to the Netherlands. He was clearly depressed by the problems in her marriage and decided to do an art course. Well, obviously she was a very good artist, so it became very apparent when she started doing her portraits that she was way better than the rest of the class, and she eventually won a prize in art. That catapulted her career into being a very successful artist to this day, and she travelled the world and all sorts, which was wonderful. But you know, she'd been married a long time and it couldn't work out why sometimes her husband was really happy and then other times he was incredibly miserable, and she took the blame on herself and thought that she was doing something wrong. So she got herself a therapist. I mean, this is typical of women. We always think it must be our fault. And yes, sometimes it might be, but not all times. So she went to see the therapist, and eventually the therapist said, I would like to meet your husband. So she got her husband to go and see the therapist on his own. And eventually it all came out why he was so unhappy. It transpired that he'd been having relationships with men from the very start of their marriage, which obviously was the reason for his mood swings and his coldness toward her. Eventually, that broke the marriage, and she had been on her own for about 15 years, and then all of her children had grown up and they had started having children of their own, and one of her daughters was pregnant with a little boy, it turns out, and they were talking about what to call the baby, and she said, why not Ben? And she said, why Ben, Mum? Why Benedict? And she said, oh, you remember I went out with that lovely chap and fell in love all those years ago? And she said, no, it's going to be Noah. So baby was called Noah, but she had started on this road of thinking about Ben, and once she started, she couldn't stop. So when she got home, she went to her computer and she started searching for him, first on Facebook and then on Skype. And she found 3 Benedicts with the right surname on Skype, and one of them was in the right area for her Benedict. So she wrote him 2 lines of a poem that he had written for her, and then she went to bed. The next morning she got up, and lo and behold, there was a message from the Ben. He had replied, this must be the beautiful daughter of the Vicar of Bray. They started to talk on the telephone, at first 10 minutes, then 30 minutes, then 2 hours, then 5 hours, and then, because he was living in Ireland and she was living in the Netherlands, he said, we must touch soon. And with that, she was sent into a flurry. She couldn't get that phrase out of her mind, and she says she was vacuuming, and all that kept reverberating around in her head was, we must touch soon, we must touch soon. And she was, her legs were like jelly, because he was looking after his own mother, who was at that time dying. Once his mother had passed away, he got in touch with her, and he said, I'm going to go over to England to see my son, and then I'm going to come and visit you, but I don't want to put you under any pressure. So I'll meet you at Rotterdam station. I will sit there. I won't approach you. I'll just sit there, because if you don't like the look of me, or if you've changed your mind, then you can just walk away. Now, wasn't that just so thoughtful? Anyway, she got to Rotterdam station at 6:30 in the morning, and he was there, and it was a very busy concourse, and she could see him there, and she walked over very slowly, and she stood in front of him, and he got up, and he kissed her, like they would have kissed all those years ago, right there in the middle of the concourse. And they haven't been apart since. Now, isn't that just the loveliest story? To think they'd been apart for 50 years, they'd never really stopped loving each other. And 50 years later, it wasn't too late for them. They've been married now 10 years, I think, and the person interviewing them said she could see how in love they were. That means that it's hopefully never too late for anyone, I think. The same as me and my darling boy. I met him at a point in my life where I had absolutely given up hope of ever meeting anybody that was right for me. And actually, when I saw him, I thought, oh, goodness, he's an old age pensioner. But I ignored that bit. And I got in touch with him, and he literally has changed my life for the better. If you have been, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.